I remember that day clearly. It started like any other, but it ended up changing my life in ways I never imagined. I had been dating Michael for a few months, and we were in that sweet stage of love where everything felt new and exciting. We were careful with each other, or at least I thought we were. I trusted him completely, maybe too much. That evening, he invited me over to his room to watch a movie. I wasn't expecting anything unusual. I thought it would be a simple, quiet night with popcorn, a movie, and maybe some jokes about the characters on the screen. When I arrived, his room smelled faintly of cologne and something sweet I couldn't place. He smiled at me, and I felt my heart skip a beat, just like it always did when he looked at me that way. He held the door open, and I walked in, feeling safe and happy to be there. He had set up the room in a way that was comfortable. There were blankets on the bed, pillows scattered around, and the TV was ready with a movie queued up. I didn't think much of it, just assumed it was going to be a normal romantic comedy. But then he pressed play, and the movie started. It wasn't just any movie, it was one of those deeply romantic ones that seemed to pull at your chest, tugging at every hidden corner of your heart. I tried to focus on the screen, to laugh at the jokes, to follow the story, but it was impossible. My eyes kept drifting to him. There was something in the way he looked at me, something warm, intense, almost magnetic, that made it hard to think about anything else. Every glance felt like a spark, igniting feelings I didn't know I could feel so strongly. As the movie played, the air between us shifted. It was subtle at first, a brush of his hand against mine, a closer lean on the couch, but soon it became undeniable. He inched closer, and before I even had a chance to think, we were wrapped in each other's arms. The first kiss was gentle, hesitant, a tentative exploration of something new. But as seconds turned to minutes, the kiss deepened, became urgent, demanding. I was lost in the moment. The movie faded into the background, the room disappeared, even the world outside ceased to exist. There was only him and me, and the way our hearts seemed to beat in sync. After that night, my mind was a storm. I replayed every second, every touch, every whispered laugh. I questioned myself endlessly. Had I been too naive? Had I let my emotions take the reins when I should have been careful? For weeks, I tried to ignore the growing unease in my body, brushing off the strange sickness, the sudden fatigue, the quiet nausea as stress or something I ate. But deep down, I knew. My body was whispering a truth I wasn't ready to face. And then, the day came when I couldn't ignore it anymore. I took a test. My hands shook so badly I could barely hold it, and my heart thumped in my chest like it wanted to break free. And then I saw it. The result stared back at me, cold and undeniable. Positive. I was pregnant. Shock rooted me to the spot. My mind spun in circles. How could this happen? I had always thought I was careful. I had trusted him, and now, in an instant, my world shifted. Fear clamped around my chest like a vice, confusion clouded every thought, and shame gnawed at the edges of my soul. I felt unprepared, exposed, and utterly alone in my turmoil. Telling Michael seemed impossible. What if he reacted badly? What if he blamed me? What if this changed everything between us, forever? But I knew I couldn't keep it hidden. I had to tell him. I returned to his room, my stomach twisting with anxiety so sharp it was almost physical. He greeted me with his usual smile, oblivious to the storm raging inside me. I could see his face light up, thinking it would be a normal night, and the contrast made the fear in my chest even heavier. When I finally spoke, the words barely escaped my lips. His smile faltered. He froze for a moment, and then, slowly, pulled me close. His arms around me were both comforting and trembling with uncertainty. His words were soft, tentative, full of concern and love, but I could see the panic lurking behind his eyes. Neither of us knew what to say at first. We sat there for hours, holding each other, talking in fits and starts, crying in ways we didn't think we would. We tried to figure out the impossible together, navigating a storm we had never imagined facing. That night, I realized that love could be tender and terrifying at the same time. It could give comfort, yet demand courage beyond anything I thought I possessed. And even as tears blurred my vision, I felt a strange sense of connection, a silent promise that we would face whatever came next together, however uncertain that path might be. After much thought, we made a decision. I would have an abortion. It was not an easy choice, and it haunted me for weeks before and after. I kept it a secret from everyone, even my closest friends. Only Michael knew, and we promised each other that we would never speak of it again. The procedure was painful, not just physically, but emotionally. I felt a sense of loss that I hadn't anticipated, a heaviness that followed me everywhere. I wondered if I had made the right choice, if there was another way. But I kept going, because life doesn't stop for grief or mistakes. Michael was supportive, but I could see the weight on him too. It was like an unspoken understanding between us, something that neither of us could fully explain. We moved forward, but the experience left a mark on both of us. I noticed little things about him that I hadn't before, like the way he avoided certain topics, or how he sometimes stared at the floor when he thought I wasn't looking. We were closer in some ways, but there was also a distance now, a silent shadow that hung between us. Months passed, and life slowly edged back into a semblance of normalcy, though the shadow of that night never fully lifted. I still loved him, still trusted him, but a part of me had changed, quietly and irrevocably. I noticed the way I hesitated before leaning too close, the way I measured my words, the way I questioned my impulses. Love, I realized, was both a breathtaking gift and a fragile weapon. It could lift you higher than you ever imagined, and yet it could cut deeper than you were prepared for. I began to understand boundaries, not just the obvious ones about bodies and choices, but the hidden ones about emotions and vulnerability. I learned that passion, when unchecked, could cloud judgment, and that even the most innocent intentions could lead to consequences you weren't ready to face. Life, I saw clearly now, was astonishingly delicate. Something as fleeting as a single night could ripple outward, shaping months, even years, of your existence. Sometimes, when the memory of that evening crept back, I felt a strange ache, nostalgia mingled with regret, sweetness intertwined with sorrow. It was a night that had changed everything, a night that had forced lessons into my life I wasn't prepared to learn, lessons about trust, love, and the fragility of innocence. Even now, years later, the memory lingers as if etched into my bones. I can recall the way he smiled, that effortless curve of his lips that made my chest flutter, the warmth of his arms, wrapping around me like a shield from the world, the intensity of that first kiss, tender yet electrifying, a mixture of longing and unspoken promises. But alongside those vivid memories lived the shadow, the fear that gripped me in the quiet moments, the confusion that made every decision feel heavier than it should, the lingering ache of choices made and paths forever altered. That night made me stronger, yes, but it also made me cautious. It made me aware of the hidden weight in trust, the vulnerability in opening your heart to someone, and the subtle power of consequences. Michael and I stayed together for a while after that, but we were no longer just two people in love, we were two people carrying a secret, a silent understanding that shaped our interactions, our silences, our laughter. The bond between us was strange, unbreakable in some ways, yet subtly constraining in others. We loved, yet we hesitated. We were close, yet there was an invisible line neither of us dared to cross. Life moved forward, as it always does, but it moved differently for us, colored by memories that we could never fully forget, by a night that had quietly, irrevocably shifted the ground beneath us. Looking back, I do not regret the love, even if it brought consequences I could have never anticipated. Life, I have learned, is an endless tapestry of lessons, some harsh, some gentle, and some so profound they leave a permanent mark. That night taught me about desire, responsibility, and the complex, unpredictable nature of human emotions. It taught me that choices, no matter how difficult, shape us in ways that last far beyond the moments in which they are made. And though it was painful, though it left shadows and echoes, it also taught me resilience, caution, and the quiet strength that comes from surviving life's most intimate storms.